Welcome to Demonised, the Islandmagee Witches. The training room contains 8 further short videos that will tell you about the events in County Antrim in 1711 that led to the trial of the 9 Islandmagee Witches. Be warned, it can be a bit scary as you're plunged into a world where people believe in the supernatural, magic and witchcraft. Where ghosts, fairies, natural wonders, curses, angels, demons, and the wrath of God constantly interfered with the lives of human beings. You will experience what it's like to be bewitched and possessed by a demon, just like Mary Dunbar was 300 years ago. And more than that, you will know what it is to be accused of witchcraft, to have the world you know turn against you and be punished in a court of law for a crime you didn't commit. The videos will give you a bit of background and help you to understand why it all happened. Feel free to choose which ones to look at first, but together they will give you a flavour of what happened all those years ago.
Haunted with evil spirits and witches, she must serve a master of holy. There's a strong smell of brimstone in the house. I saw a picket poke turning round in the middle of the floor, about a foot high from the ground. Better be made in a shift for I
Fie upon you for a wicked woman. I trust in God. You shall never get advantage of me. I will not join the devil's legion. I am as Job.
Don't touch that bonnet.
Don't touch that bonnet, Mary.
It's bewitched.
It's bewitched. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
She never met them before, but they attack her as spirits.
Mary is such a respectable, beautiful girl.
The witches all have a diabolical appearance, have you noticed? I am pierced to the heart. My breasts are cut off. I am tormented and inflicted with witches. They have taken the power of my speech. They appear to me, though invisible to my keepers and attenders. They make me fall with fainting and tormenting fits. Janet Miller twisted my tongue and tore my throat with her crooked fingers and swollen knuckles. My body is contorted by motions unusual. I cannot eat. I will not eat. What is happening to me? Why do you attack me as spirits? Can't you see them? They lie upon my breast.
The knotted string is a witch's charm. The witches prevent her from hearing the minister's prayers.
The witches prevent her from
They
hearing.
threaten to kill her. She fell into fits when the witches approach her. They are strangers to her, but she picked them out of a lineup. She's never even met them. She's never even seen any of them in her life before. The knotted string is a witch's charm. Married in bars in great disorder. I heard she fell into a violent fit of pains as soon as she saw them. She was stung to the heart.
Great disorder.
The witches told her she would have no power of speech in court. They must have taken her voice. Apparently her teeth were so tightly clenched they could only be opened using a key forced in between them. Pray for the girl. She remains in a fit. But the knotted string is a witch's charm. Mary should go to that Scots wiseman for a charm.
Mary should go to the Scotch wiseman for a charm.
Mitchell can shapeshift into a spider and a housefly either. Can you imagine?
The spider and a housefly. 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 The spider and a housefly.
Witchcraft belief in Islandmagee was also shaped by the shared memory of the traumatic events of 1711, as the Islandmagee Witches continued to pose a lingering supernatural threat. This fear of the witches was transmitted from generation to generation via a rich oral tradition of storytelling within families and the community at large, as well as by places associated in folk history with the Islandmagee Witches. This included No Head House and the old rocking stone near Browns Bay. In the 1800s, people reported seeing the witches dance on the rocking stone at night and told that the deep grooves in the rock had been caused by Islandmagee witch Margaret Mitchell, as she was dragged off to court. It is well known that Ireland escaped the worst of the European witch hunts, which saw 50,000 people executed for witchcraft, 80% of whom were women. Witch hunting was carried out all over Europe over the course of 3 centuries, from the mid-1400s onwards. Ireland, however, hosted only 4 trials under the 1586 Irish Witchcraft Act, which made using many forms of magic a crime. These trials grew out of accusations made in Protestant communities, where witches were thought to threaten livestock, humans and property. Although often believed to have gained their power from the devil, witches were not exotic creatures from distant lands, but people you knew or lived beside. Protestants in Ireland only made up a fraction of a population that was mainly Roman Catholic. As Protestants feared witches the most, they were the only ones to lodge formal complaints with authorities. This fact, along with the reluctance of lawmen to prosecute witches on the evidence brought before them, kept witchcraft prosecution rates low in Ireland. During March 1711, Dunbar accused 8 Presbyterian women of possessing and bewitching her. These were Janet Liston, wife of William Seller, Janet Carson, Catherine McAlmond, Margaret Mitchell, Janet Main, Janet Miller, Elizabeth Seller, daughter of Janet Liston and William Seller, and Janet Latimer. The women she accused clung to the margins of life. Their bodies, acts of resistance and deviant behaviour, marked them out as believable witches, as did their poor, old, stained clothing. Not all women who challenged the restrictions put on women's behaviour and lives in a male-dominated society were prosecuted for witchcraft, but it certainly increased your chances. If Mary Dunbar ticked all the boxes for how a good woman should behave, the Islandmagee Witches broke all the rules. Some enjoyed bad reputations for unneighbourly conduct or dabbled in magic. Others drank strong alcohol, swore or smoked pipes, and 2 were rumoured to engage in sex work. Most of the women resisted every part of the interrogation, prosecution and conviction process, even when they had little education, money or power to mount an effective defence. The women were also described by Dunbar as having facial scars and a range of physical impairments, including loss of sight, which highlighted their failure to meet contemporary, patriarchal standards of feminine physical beauty. Their bodies were deemed imperfect, and this was read by contemporaries as reflecting inner corruption and sin. Unlike most bewitched or demonically possessed people in the early modern world, the imprisonment of the accused did not lead to an improvement in Mary Dunbar's health. Mary claimed this was because William Seller had begun bewitching her. During the week that followed, early April 1711, Seller was charged with bewitching Mary. He was found guilty of witchcraft at a second trial at Carrickfergus Summer Assizes on the 11th of September 1711. Mary Dunbar died of unknown causes on the 24th of April 1711, 3 weeks after the first trial. Mary's death turned William's original crime of bewitchment into a capital offence, for which the sentence was death by hanging. It is assumed that the sentence was carried out, meaning he was one of the few, if not the only witch, executed in Ireland. On the 21st of February 1711, Mrs. Anne Haltridge, the elderly widow of Islandmagee minister the Reverend John Haltridge, died suddenly of mysterious stabbing pains in her back. She had by that point endured months of supernatural attacks by a demon on her body and the home, No Head House, she shared with her son James and his young family. No Head House was located in Islandmagee, an 8-mile-long peninsula on the east coast of County Antrim in what is now Northern Ireland, and was home to 300 Presbyterians of Scots descent. Anne and the young family servant, Margaret Spears, were visited on numerous occasions by a demonic boy in ragged clothes who threatened to kill the whole family. Before her death, Anne was visited by malicious spirits while lying in bed. Her curtains would fly open of their own accord, and objects would mysteriously disappear and reappear the next day. Locals put two and two together and concluded that Anne's misfortune was the work of witches, but witches that had yet to receive a name. That task would be left to Mary Dunbar, who arrived shortly after Anne was buried. During March 1711, local law enforcement officers, Church of Ireland and Presbyterian clergymen tracked down the accused women using overheard names and physical descriptions supplied by Mary Dunbar. Mary claimed to have never met the women in person and had only encountered them in spectral form. Once identified, the women were tested for their biblical knowledge and ability to say the Lord's Prayer. Witches under demonic influence were believed to be impious and unable to repeat the scriptures. The women were at various times paraded in front of Mary to see if she could identify them, or made to approach Mary without her knowing. Every time this was done, Mary picked them out of the lineup or reacted to their presence by going into a trance or convulsion. The mayor of Carrickfergus, Edward Clements, took statements from the key witnesses, but not the accused women, and placed them in jail in Carrickfergus to await trial at the upcoming Spring Assize Court for County Antrim. Five days after the God-fearing and well-respected Anne Haltridge was buried amid rumours of witchery, her niece Mary Dunbar visited the mourning family in No Head House. Mary was a pious, educated gentlewoman from Castlereagh, County Down. Shortly after her arrival, Mary discovered the method of old Mrs. Haltridge's bewitchment, image magic in the form of a tightly bound, knotted apron which contained the dead woman's missing flannel bonnet. Almost immediately, the demonic activity experienced by Anne reconvened, and a demon entered and possessed Dunbar. This caused her to levitate, experience convulsions, fits, loss of speech and appetite, and to vomit household objects. She also reported attacks on her body by several witches in spirit or spectral form. Only she could see these spectral witches. Dunbar's symptoms continued up until the day of their trial, and deprived her of speech and the ability to give evidence in court. Mary died 3 weeks after the trial and conviction of the Islandmagee Witches on the 31st of March, 1711. and she left the fate of the final witch, William Seller, hanging in the balance. On the day of the trial, the 31st of March, 1711, two leading judges travelling from Dublin arrived in Carrickfergus to try the women at the County Assize Court to be held there. This was Anthony Upton, Justice of the Common Pleas, and James Macartney, Justice of the Queen's Bench. The trial was held in the old courthouse and jail in Carrickfergus, which was demolished in the 1700s. It was an unusually long criminal trial for the time, lasting 8 hours. Along with damning evidence given by the great and good of East Antrim, several of the objects that Dunbar was reported to have vomited were produced in court. As was custom back then, the women did not have a lawyer defending them. They nevertheless all pled not guilty. It was then the job of the two judges to sum up the evidence to the 12-man jury. Due to party politics and mutual distrust, the judges were divided in the direction they gave to the jury. Judge Upton directed them to acquit the women, while Judge Macartney suggested they find them guilty. After a very short time, the jury returned a guilty verdict, and the 8 women were convicted under the 1586 Act for a first offence of using witchcraft. They were sentenced to 1 year's imprisonment and 4 appearances in the pillory on market day for 6 hours at a time.